suppose there's resilience is experiences built together as well, because I had my motorbike accident and I lost everything seemingly, my resilience skills were not one-dimensional, but they were part of myself. They were just part of myself. And in February of 2024, I was working and my watch suddenly said that my house was on fire. And I knew that my dog Fergus had been dropped back about 20 minutes before. And so I called the fire brigade. I was 40 miles away in central London, about an hour and 20 minutes, no chance I could get here. My neighbours are mostly elderly. And when I got hold of one of my younger neighbours, they said that they couldn't see a problem, but as they walked around the corner, I just heard them start screaming. And indeed, my bungalow was catastrophically on fire, and Fergus was inside.
Welcome to Minds Thrive Talking, the podcast that asks, how can psychology help minds to thrive and what else helps? We're joined today by Nerys Pearce, holder of 9 world records, open water swimmer, Commonwealth Games athlete 2018, a veteran of the British Army medic and a motivational speaker. We will be talking about resilience.
Nerys, tell us a little bit about you and your story and where this journey began.
Hey, well, good morning. It's so fab to be with you guys. And oh, gracious, where to start? I mean, so I suppose it starts way back when I was a child, and growing up was just slightly different for me, I suppose. And I always felt that way, that I never quite fitted in. I was always too much, too little, too energetic, too sporty, too intelligent, not intelligent enough. I never quite nailed that boundary, which meant that my friendships are always quite tricky. And then when I was growing up, I found the Sea Cadets. And finally, there was this place where, at least in part, maybe not with the people, but with the subjects, I could find somewhere that I could use that love of being energetic and my brain turning over at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but also I could use it in an intelligent way, that I was learning how to do mechanical engineering. I was learning all these different subjects, the technicalities of sailing, and suddenly I started to find a glimmer of myself. Now that led to obviously schooling always being like the struggle side, but then finding that I could do the Sea Cadets as a career. And I started looking at the military. And when I finally landed with the British Army, it was like I'd found a place that it was okay to be me. I never really needed to struggle to fit in. I never had to dampen myself, lift myself up. I could just be. And what an incredible feeling that was after 20 years of never quite being right. And then along the line, I got into adventure sports, went around the world. I also had the beautiful job of helping to teach others how to save somebody else's life. And that meant that I felt like the whole version of myself for the first time in my entire life. And I still remember the day that I sat and just could breathe out and just be okay with being different, quirky, running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, suddenly crashing out, and learning that that space existed in the world was like a weight was lifted off me. Now in 2008, I was back in the UK, and a car reversed suddenly out from behind a solid-sided bus stop, and bang, in a moment, my life changed. And I suddenly found myself back to having no version of myself. I ended up bedbound, paralyzed from the chest down, and existing as this creature I hated. I hated watching my family and friends come in and just desperately trying to be in a space with me. I hated the fact that I had no sense of self-worth. I had nothing left, no career, no sports, no place in my family group or my friends group. You know, I was that one with the stupid ideas like, hey, it's Christmas Eve and it's -6. So let's go to the top of Pennyfan in the Brecon Beacons and drink champagne. And being the one that people went, oh my God, okay, let's do that. And, you know, it just was gone. And eventually it culminated in me trying to end my life because I just couldn't see any way forwards or any version of myself that I was ever going to be okay with. And after I tried to take my life, it was probably about 6 months, and a charity called Blaise, a military charity, found me, and they started to offer some kind of like little bits of light, but I just couldn't see it. It was never going to happen. I was bedbound. I weighed over 20 stone. I couldn't put a sentence together because I was on so many drugs for the nerve injury, the nerve pain. Um, and I just couldn't see the help ever helping, you know. And that's a really difficult place to be, because all these people are throwing ways for you to move forwards and for you to fix it and for you to, and until my brain could start accepting just even like that little way of saying, okay, I want to try, there was no way forward still. And I suppose what started to change it was that they didn't give up, that they kept coming back every time I'd say to them, I can't, I just don't have that. They would come and say, okay, but what about this? What about it in a different way? What about, and one day they said, look, we've got this ski trip going out to Denver, Colorado, and we can sort everything. And I was like, I'm bedbound. I can't even be in my wheelchair. I'm 20 stone. Like, how are you going to fly me halfway around the world? And they were like, we've got it. Look, here are some examples of how we've done it with other people. And for the first time in probably 6 years, my brain kind of, I could feel going, I want to, but I just don't know. And that first leap that I took to say, okay, show me. I don't believe you can do it, but show me. And I'm suddenly on a plane to Denver, Colorado. When we opened the blinds on the plane, suddenly there's blue skies, there's these mountains coming out of the world. And my brain went, oh my God, this used to be me. Like, mm. And then the reality hit that 4,000 meters or whatever crazy elevation Denver is at. You can't breathe, you can't move. I'm 20 stone. I've been bedbound for God knows how long. I've barely moved. And I was like, oh my God, I can't. And they were like, okay, well, you can't, but we can. So, hey, we're going to put you in this sit ski. And I was like, all right, hang on. I'm paralyzed from the chest down. That, that seat seems to be balanced on like one ski. I can't even sit when I'm supported. Anyway, what ensued was eventually me falling over one way like a weeble. Like, some of you will be too young to understand what this is. Georgina, Ruth, you might be too young. I weebled one way, they picked me back up, I fell over the other, weeble.
I'm 52. I know what Weeble is.
Hey, so difficult to judge age. It's like one of the things that freaks me out the most. And like, eventually I was just said, get me out of this. Like, what type of joke is this? Like, you've taken something that I used to love, like skiing, my number one sport, and now you've made it into this thing that I'm never going to achieve. And the ski instructor came over, who's American, and he like grabbed my jacket and said, well, you just need to put some effort in. And I was like, wow, the audacity. I was so like taken aback. And I was like, does he not know that I'm disabled? Does he not know that I've lost everything and I'm paralyzed from the chest down? And I was like, just get me out of this. And so off we went, skiing down the mountain, left, right, left. And we got to the bottom and I turned around and I was like, get me out of, and he was over there. And he skied over to me. He picked up his phone. He turned his phone around and he pressed play. And that moment, he changed my life because he didn't ski me to the bottom of the mountain. I skied myself. And if I could do that, what else could I do? And it didn't fix everything. And when I landed back in the UK, it was still back to 24-hour carers, being bedbound, trying to learn how to figure out how to do this whole paralysis thing. But my brain went, hang on, like you saw that. And if you can do that, what else can you start saying yes to? And I suppose that was the
Wow.
start of my journey.
Wow. Do you know what? I remember from our first discussion many months ago now, you saying, I always say yes to the opportunities in front of me. And it's almost like a yes. Like, what am I saying yes to? But I go for it. And I mean, Nerys, as you tell your story, my goodness, the adaptations that you have had to make as such an active person, having to come to terms with those changes. But wow, your determination and your resilience, and what an inspiration that is to us all, about what we really can achieve when we're prepared to get uncomfortable and move into our stretch zone and actually face the challenges that life is giving us head on. Wow.
Thanks. It's not easy. And it's definitely one of those things that is always a journey, because saying no and sitting inside yourself feels much more comfortable lots of the time, because even if we're sat in our home feeling miserable, we know where we are. And we
Yes.
know what's involved in that, whether we live with people. I live by myself. Well, actually, Fergus would be very upset right now. So I have an amazing dog called Fergus. But I have no humans in the house. And because I suppose growing up, humans were almost always what I found the most difficult thing about the whole world. I could never quite figure out why I couldn't get it together, like with my peer group, which meant that I got horrendously bullied, which I'm sure now looking at myself, I made worse, because then I didn't know how to deal with that. So then I tried to people please, or I tried to push too hard, or I tried to change to be a fake version of myself, or a part version, and actually now just knowing that I could have just been, but obviously back when, you have no experience and what we want in the world, you watch the whole world going on and it seems like everybody has these amazing ease to be with people and to gel and have these incredible friendship groups and to walk into a space and just be fine. And that was never my reality. And now I realize that it's part of what I refer to as my superpower. I can process through a million different people, but I then have to be careful of that because my brain comes into a space and it's immediately checking how everybody else is. And it's immediately listening to other people's struggles and other people's feelings, place, and trying to make that all okay. And it's taken me a very long time to actually sit and do that for myself.
Nerys, I wanted to pick up on finding your tribe within the army. And correct me if I'm wrong, but something I recalled from our previous discussion is that the army picked up on neurodivergence, ADHD, I believe.
Mm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And actually, they helped you to recognize how it can work for you. And they created a really supportive environment for you where you flourished. And so I'm hearing that journey growing up where you didn't understand this about you, nobody else understood it about you, was a very uncomfortable place to be.
Mm.
And I'm sure the loss of that safe space within the army was absolutely massive after your accident. And having to then do that work to take that understanding and to create that relationship around you, or that safety around you again.
Yeah, I suppose it's watching, like, again, we watch the world, and as children, as teenagers, I mean, as adults, I look around the world for what's acceptable, normal, how other people function. And then knowing that my brain really struggled to do that. And that no matter how hard I tried, if I saw something that was morally wrong, my brain feels physically sick about it, and watching other people not necessarily be okay with it, but being able to sit with that. Whereas my brain immediately wanted to jump in, for example, if other children were picking on other people. And my brain immediately wanted to jump in and almost self-sacrifice. Because I knew it was going to switch to me, but it was almost like I couldn't help myself. And in conversation, my brain, to show that I understand somebody, that I'm empathetic, that, that feeling of wanting to be with them, was to tell a story that I had, where I'd experienced that. And that was seen as, taking the place away from them, or, whereas, you might say, oh my God, Nerys, I've had the worst day ever. I came out, I tipped coffee down myself. I had this amazing business meeting, but I was now covered in coffee and I was soaking wet. I remember, oh my God, literally, like last week, the exact same thing happened to me. Now my brain sees that as connection and wanting to hear you and make you feel supported. And even if my story wasn't identical, that it might have the same thread of a feeling that it gave, that I can feel that or hear that you're telling me about. But as a teenager and as an adult, that's not always seen with people that have a different neuro setup as acceptable. And knowing now that that is my brain desperately wanting to make the person feel supported, that I understand. And actually, I've had to learn those skills of turning around and saying, oh my God, I hear you. I've so been there. Tell me more about your situation, you know, and so that it goes back to them. But that was not a natural thing, because my ADHD desperately wanted to share part of myself as almost a sacrifice to the person. And of course that does not gel, friends, very well when, it's always seeming that you got a better story, and it's not a better story. My brain just wanted to connect. I
Yes. I
struggled with
think,
how to do that.
yeah. Yeah, like I'm hearing you talk about that challenge of communicating across neurotypes. I mean, Nerys says we've spoken just a couple of times now, but oh my goodness, that we're wired very differently. I was going to leap in with something you said earlier and go, oh yes, I've got that, I've done that sort of. But yeah, the feedback can be, oh, you're making it all about you again. So I'm not trying to. I'm trying to sort of like do something, and there's a discipline in that. I want to pick up on the idea of resilience and environments. So I guess there's a story. Have you heard about dandelions and orchids?
I'm excited to hear.
Okay. Well, this is a metaphor that I absolutely love for thinking about neurodiversity.
It's a book.
Is it a book?
Okay.
Somebody has
there we go.
written.
I could probably keep a dandelion alive. Orchids don't see me. Plus, they're toxic to dogs. That's what my brain did when you said that.
Right.
So I'm ready to hear the difference.
Yeah, so the metaphor is dandelions are a really, really important flower that comes out very early, and they're good for early pollinating. They're prolific and they grow anywhere. They're very resilient. They will grow in good soil. They will grow in bad soil. They'll grow out of a crack in a pavement. They'll grow in the middle of a football pitch. So the environmental conditions, they're pretty good at growing growing anywhere, and they're an important flower in that respect. Orchids need a different environment for them to grow and flourish. They are a beautiful flower that bring a lot of pleasure to people. I'm sure they've got other functions as well, but the idea is that an orchid is not going to grow out of a crack in a pavement, and it won't survive in the middle of a football pitch, and they're not prolific and everywhere and get mown down and pop back up again. But they're each really important and valuable flowers in the world.
Can I just acknowledge who wrote that book, Ruth?
Yes.
It's Thomas Boyce, The Orchid and the Dandelion, and I think it's a really powerful book.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Georgina. So I guess what I was thinking about was, in your school environment, it sounded like the conditions weren't quite right. And then when you got into the army, boom, you were seen and acknowledged for who you are. The environmental condition was put around you. Then when you were talking about your story of the ski trip where you were like, no, back off. I'm disabled. I'm 20 stone. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I won't do it. I was thinking how I might be inclined to put you in a bit of bubble wrap and keep you in an environment that looks after you and protects you. But somebody did the absolute opposite and grabbed you by the lapels and said,
Military.
just do it.
It's a military thing. It really is. It's because we are set up like the world is. It's difficult, isn't it? I think it's loads of different things. So growing up, I have my parents are pretty kind of go for it type people, and interestingly, my mum's blind, so my visual connection with her is obviously non-existent because my mum cannot see. So as children, we look to our parents, to adults, to humans, for eye contact, facial expression, for whether we're correct, not correct, whether we are doing things right. And one of my parents didn't have that ability because she can't see. And again, the way that sets you up with interactions between people, it meant then as a child, I was looking for other people for that kind of eye connection that you normally have with your mum. And I think it's the kind of feeling that you want to connect in a way, but there's a struggle. And then the military has this other thing, I think again at school, and just because of our society, the way the world is still, the girls are taught to be perfect and boys are taught to be brave. And you kind of see that, and I still see it in schools. I work a lot in schools where a boy runs around, scuffs their knees, and they're like, oh, yeah, he's doing the right thing. And, a girl runs around and they're like, oh, you weren't particularly careful, were you? And just our wording still is different. And so for sure, environment like school, the having to sit still in one room, one chair, one desk, one book, one pen, all of these kind of constraints then led my brain to internally spin. So, because people go, oh, but Nerys, your school reports say that you were super polite, that you sat well, that you tried to listen well, and I was like, great. But they also said that if I could just focus, if I could just keep myself on one track, if I could just. And so ADHD just shows differently in boys and girls, and maybe just in different people as well. I actually don't know the statistics, but certainly looking at schools and working in schools now, I see it a lot where the ADHD in boys is picked up because the thing that you see is them running around, the outbursts of aggression, the massive movements, whereas in girls, you see the scuffing of feet under a chair, the switching of subjects inside their head in conversations. You know, I still run like a million tracks. I can feel my brain doing it now, a million tracks at the same time. And then the exhausting part of that is that my brain is then constantly having to go, no, no, you're talking about this right now. No, no, you're doing this. You're doing this right now. This is what you're doing. This. And my brain desperately wants to do that. But again, the world and in general, people don't love you halfway through a conversation, switching conversations 5 times to end up back at the original conversation.
That's so hard though, because it's
so
just
hard.
kind of like how your brain goes. And I can't
Uh,
remember what I've started with anyway. I'm like, I've forgotten
my
what that
brain
was.
always ends up back somehow.
Yeah. I think this is why communication is best within neurotypes, because Ruth and I will regularly engage in that ping pong and we're entirely happy with that.
Yeah.
Bring a neurotypical person into the equation. It's very confusing.
And the fact that they want to stay in this, like, my brain just goes, oh, okay, all right. Now how do I do this?
I'm quite wowed by them as well. I'm like,
Yeah.
how have you done that thread like that? That's a bit, and I always think, oh, this, I don't know about you, but for me, it taps into my self-esteem, because I then do a compare despair. So I compare myself to them. I'm like, oh, they're so much better than me at that. And then by that comparison, I put myself down. And I don't think that's very good for us.
No, and I suppose one of my resilience techniques, and, you know, for me, I teach it a lot. You know, we all have adversities, and whether they're being squashed by a car and end up paralyzed from chest down, or you spilt coffee down your front, it doesn't actually matter. And normally it's the spilling coffee down your front that we've let that, and forgetting our house keys, losing our car key, being late, our child not having the right shoes on. Yeah, that not having a poo bag. Those are the adversities that actually build up inside ourselves, that overwhelm us with the negative self-talk. It's not the one massive thing normally that takes me under. It's always the culmination of little things that I've not acknowledged, dealt with as a problem, because I've gone, there, she got squashed by a car. My house burnt down. I lost everything. Those are problems that I should be like feeling something about. What? That didn't spoil me. And then my brain goes, hang on, I need to look at me, because my ADHD issues mean that I am insanely good when the world blows up. My brain loves it. It loves the fact that I've got something to deal with. I've got a set of massive problems that need to be overcome. And my ADHD allows me to do that with relaxed calm, because the chemical that my brain doesn't make properly, that I'm short of half of the time, suddenly is there, because I've got this massive problem, and the chemical then generates, and suddenly it's the same as drinking caffeine for me. Like, people drink a cup of coffee and they go, oh my God, my brain is like, and my brain goes, ah,
Coffee
oh,
and a nap.
there we go. Suddenly, yeah, I get up, have coffee in the morning, I can come back and I can sleep. But I've not drunk coffee for like 9 hours, because that's what the world says. You don't drink coffee after lunchtime if you want to sleep. And my brain is spinning. And again, it's about starting to acknowledge that I'm me, and that my resilience techniques, my toolkit, is going to look different to somebody else's. They might have ADHD, they might be paralyzed from the chest down, they might have had big adversities. Our toolkits are still going to be different. And so I started challenging myself to, when I started with that, you're not good enough, you didn't do, you can't go, hang on, what can I do? All right, I need to set this up differently for myself, for me to achieve the positive outcome of like, you know, the dreaded chore list, the one that makes us feel like absolute rubbish, that one, that my brain avoids at all costs, like walking the dog in the rain, picking poo up out of the garden suddenly becomes an urgent task to avoid sorting out the council tax. Um, and everyone goes, what? And I'm like, oh, for some reason, that council tax has fallen into the ADH space of, oh, I'm not sure. Whoa, nope, 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 nope. I have to then set that task up differently for myself. And it's the same as when, you know, I get those small adversities. One of them, for example, just recently, I've started challenging myself to say, hang on, I'd get up really early to help a friend. If a friend, or for work friend, I would be up at 7 a.m. But 7 a.m. comes round and my brain goes, oh, Nerys, I know you said you were going to go for a wheel and take photo. And I'm like, hang on, I'd show up for somebody else. So how do I manage to show up for myself? How do I manage to do that positive action for me? Because I also need to be worth it for myself. And that then allows me to start with a positive conversation of, oh, today has gone horribly. Horribly. I maybe messed up an interaction with a person that my brain then replays a million times in the most self-deprecating, evil way to myself. And I'm like, hang on, I would, for somebody else, give them the benefit of the doubt, do something positive, be there. So I need to somehow view myself as an outside person to do that. And managing to challenge myself that if I can feel myself being unkind, I mean, sometimes I'm really evil to myself. And I'm just like, hang on, being able to stop that and go, yes, but I was incredible at, and just say one
That's, yeah.
thing, and that's in my toolkit, you know, that I can say one positive thing just to stop the spinning of unkindness. And if I can do that, then it allows me to take the next step forwards of do something kind for myself. You know, even though I feel like I was useless and I don't deserve it and that I messed up, that I've been able to say something positive and stop the spin. Now I need to do something positive for myself. And showing up for myself has been one of the greatest resilience toolkit things that I've had, and has saved me from so many situations where those little adversities could have become something really huge.
The thing you're doing there, Nerys, which is a great thing that we talk about in CBT, is catch the thought. You've got to identify what's going on. So what you're doing is identifying. So from a therapeutic perspective, you're identifying the problem thought, the problem pattern. And once we identify what our patterns are, then we can do something about it. And the other thing that you talked about, which I thought was absolute gold, was to do with resilience being quite a personalized thing. So what works for one person doesn't work for someone else. And I love that, because I think we talk about resilience and it's like, actually, first of all, there's a reflective process of where's the bit that I get stuck with? And what's going on there? What am I saying to myself? Why is that? And where's that coming from? Where's my motivation and so on? And then kind of flipping it round. So if it's personalized, if it's linked into our core values, if it's linked into our motivations in life, I believe we have more success. So I love that.
I'm just learning, do you know, as adults, it's this thing again about adulting. I quite commonly joke that I need to find a more adulty adult than me, because you set up that these small things, you know, let's go with the coffee, is like this horrific adult fail. And actually, if we can just release that from the word fail to it just happened, right? It's just me. It's perfectly fine. People are never going to trust me with coffee cups. And then from that, look at what we've done. What can we do? And as adults, we get really stuck down this line of having to be adults. And we forget that, and something that I've like played with, and I'm still learning about, is that when I face an adversity, it's okay to fail again by trying something out of my toolkit. So, and I encourage people to write it down. I have, because then when you're having that day where you can't see the point in life, you can't get out of bed, then you can pick up a notebook, and instead of having to think, plan, be positive, try and figure it out, if they're written down, your brain can like scan down the list and go, oh, I could try cup of coffee before 8. I could just try that. And then we try that. Firstly, we're out of bed. First success. Secondly, okay, it didn't quite fix it. All right, let's go back to the list. All right, go out into the garden. I don't need to go anywhere. Just go out into the garden. Now suddenly I've achieved 2 things in that day. 2 things. And suddenly I can see that I can do something. And if we allow ourselves to be more playful, to fail, it's one of the greatest successes in life is to fail, and fail constantly, and fail like all of the time, and fail
Yes.
gloriously. Just go for it and fail. It is fine. We learn something about ourselves. That didn't quite work. Cool. Okay. In this instance, what else can I try? And if we can get over the fact that we're not perfect and the world's not perfect and solutions are never perfect, and that we try one thing and we go, yeah, okay. In a little bit, I tried the one thing, so I've succeeded, but it didn't quite work for me. Okay, where's that list? Can I draw a picture, listen to some art? Like myself, if I can't figure out a way forwards, let's chuck ourselves at the soonest possible opportunity on the sofa with Law and Order. Don't judge me. And just watch some dead TV, because the other thing my brain really struggles with is the silence. The silence. People go, oh, you just need time to think. Yeah, that's fine. My brain is so much more comfortable thinking with a million other things happening. Because releases the pressure of it. Because if I'm sat in silence thinking, I'm sat in silence thinking. And there's so much pressure in that for me. It's like in the car, and my sister, we were driving to France, and the sat nav directions just went doolally, because like Milton Keynes, what's that place with the crazy million roundabouts that lead into each other?
Milton Keynes.
One of those in France with French directions with the sat nav glitching. And my sister went, oh my God, I've got to turn the music down to be able to think. And I was like, hang on, no, I'm driving. No. To think I need the music on, right? Otherwise, my brain tries to it gets set in a hyper focus that is incredible sometimes. But when I'm in a position where it's intense, it intensifies that intensity. And then my brain hits overwhelm.
Yeah, Nerys, you pick up on something there about the different needs. So I'm like your sister. If you put music on, I can't hold a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Because it's another processing thing that I'm entirely in the music. And I think my friends think I don't like music. I do. I can't speak to you whilst it's on.
Yeah.
I wanted to reflect on what you're telling us about resilience here, because I'm seeing it almost on 2 levels here. There's a day-to-day resilience where actually you're making sure that the little things that come against us, the trips, the coffee spilling, the nasty comments, that they don't take hold in our mind and they don't ruin our day. And then there's the resilience for the really significant life events. And what I heard in your story was the importance of connection at that time. So, the man that's like, come on, off you go. Actually, if you saw that on video, everybody would go, oh, what was he thinking? But actually, that toughness at that moment took you on another path. And I mean, you were in a really dark hole, understandably so. It was horrendous what you endured and what you've had to adjust to. I'm just really curious about resilience in those really dark places, when we don't want to be here anymore, when everything that we've loved and lost is gone, and we're having to face doing life differently.
I suppose there's resilience is experiences built together as well, because when I had my motorbike accident and I lost everything seemingly, my resilience skills were not one dimensional, but they were part of myself. They were just part of myself. And now, I mentioned in Fleeting, in February of 2024, I was working and my watch suddenly said that my house was on fire. And I knew that my dog Fergus had been dropped back about 20 minutes before. And so I called the fire brigade. I was 40 miles away in central London, about an hour and 20 minutes, no chance I could get here. My neighbours are mostly elderly. And when I got hold of one of my younger neighbours, they said that they couldn't see a problem, but as they walked around the corner, I just heard them start screaming. And indeed, my bungalow was catastrophically on fire. And Fergus was inside. And when they got Fergus out, the fire brigade did the most amazing job. They were dead. He was dead when they got him out. They did full CPR on him, used all the tanks of oxygen, managed to restart his heart, and gave me back the only thing that mattered out of the fire and the only thing to survive. And it was weird because that, it's worse than being hit by a car and left paralyzed and chest down. One of the things in my life that is one of my anchor points. He is my companion. We do everything together. Was, at that moment gone. And even when he did survive, he was rushed off to intensive care and they didn't think he was going to make it. And yet sat watching my bungalow burning and the fire brigade doing their amazing job. And my brain didn't feel the same sense of overwhelm, because I could feel my brain checking into that toolkit that now I'd had another, 16 years worth of practice with. Something that I definitely say to everyone is that whether your adversities are big or small, the smaller they are, in fact, practice, try different things, try everything, because in those 16 years, so I got injured in 2008, I was left paralyzed in 2010. And so those 14 years, I had tried literally everything. I'd said yes to every experience. Blesma came and said, Nerys, do you want to learn to tell your story? And I was like, solidly no. It's an absolute solid no. People have been evil to me. They've bullied me. Why would they want to listen? When people do listen, they can do horrible things with that information. They can treat that unkindly, and then they were like, okay, cool. All right. And then it came around again, the Blesma Community Project. And I was like, oh, do you know what? If I just went and just tried it, then I can always leave. Like halfway through the course, I can leave. But at least I've tried it. And so I went on this Blesma Community Project, worked with storytellers, because again, it's a real negative connotation from my childhood, is that I had ADHD. So I've got a insanely amazing imagination. And now it's such a cool thing. Because it allows me to be playful, to be fun, to get on different people's levels. But growing up, it was like, oh, are you telling stories? And I had this real negative thing. So someone saying to me, Nerys, do you want to come and learn to tell your story? I'm not, oh my God, no, I don't want to learn how to be false and how to embellish and where did that come from? Stories are the coolest things, and they bring us all together. They allow us a way to express all of how we're feeling. Not all of that is real. all of the time, because this, again, real and not real, just because what you can see is not necessarily everything that's going on for a person. And, this, again, just learning that and learning how to, I can draw. I mean, who knew? Like, seriously, I was too busy trying to do maths, English, science to be a medic. Drawing was like this. Yeah, no, that's not me. But again, go on art courses, go on crafts, try different things. These are now all in my resilience toolkit. So when I was sat watching my house burn and everything I ever had be gone, my safety, my independence, because being paralyzed from the chest down, I just can't go anywhere. So I then was left with the situation of I had nowhere adapted to go to be. So the night of the fire, again, so thankful. My sister and I now have an amazing relationship. When we were growing up, it was all complicated, but whose sibling relationship isn't complicated at some point? But now we're the most incredible friends. And that partly came from us acknowledging that we're both different, but we're both so cool, and that sometimes our differences are going to, and sometimes our differences are going to allow us, and learning how to turn into, actually, if I hear you and you hear me and I hear you and we mesh together the fact that we're different, how insanely amazing can we be? And learning those things all together meant that when I was watching my house and everything go, I didn't feel overwhelmed. I almost felt like it was going to be okay and that I was going to have it, and that I had all these amazing people around me. That the other thing growing up, I didn't do well because I didn't understand that I didn't need to do it all. I didn't need to be perfect at everything all of the time. And that the fact that I suck at organizing X, Y, and Z or keeping a room tidy is perfectly fine because there's somebody else that's very cool at that.
You make me think of the metaphor of the body, where it says, we're not all an ear, we're not all a foot, we're not all a, that actually we need to be the different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And knowing that that's fine to go, oh my God, guys, I'm starting to lose this because I feel suddenly couldn't find anywhere to rent. Knew that the bungalow was several rooms of ashes, the rest of it, anything the fire didn't completely turn to dust. The smoke absolutely destroyed. But again, suddenly I came into the bungalow, and instead of seeing the doom in it, I could see my brain looking for the art that the fire had created. Some of the photographs I took, I mean, the art that fire and smoke create is just amazing. And I know it sounds completely off the wall insane that I'm sat in a place that used to be my home, homeless. I literally owned what I was sat in. I didn't even have a toothbrush. And my brain was going, my God, look how cool that is. Like, the smoke ran round artwork that it melted and, ran down walls, and things melted in really like interesting like ways. And I suddenly went, Nerys, your brain's using its toolkit. That's the resilience toolkit. Finding the interest, finding the light. The fire's happened. I can't change it. Everything that I want to exist that doesn't, that's not going to change it. And acknowledging that it was okay not to be all right about that, and acknowledging that it was all right to be sad, frustrated, felt picked on. One joking conversation I had with an amazing neighbor who's also very neurodivergent. She said to me, "You all right?" And I said, "No, I feel like, why? What did I even do?" It's not be okay. And to actually verbalize that was another step forwards for me.
Okay, so I think what I heard you tell me is two things. So there was that very human reaction of, oh my goodness, what is going on? How can one human being experience so much adversity? And then there was another part of you, this very, very resilient part, that was able to still see beauty in that moment. And often people refer to resilience as making art from the pieces. And I thought, oh my goodness, Nerys actually did that, and just how tough that is. And I think this is resilience. It's real, isn't it? You know, we might practice resilience, we might be psychologists, but the way the rubber hits the road is you've got two things going on. You've got that, oh, this is terrible, this is so unjust, why me? And then we've got, actually, do you know what? I'm finding the gold. My dog, the most precious thing in my life. I mean, that now sounds to me nothing short of a miracle that your dog survived. I'm holding on to that blessing. I'm holding on to the blessing of my relationship with my sister, the blessing of my relationship with my neighbours. This is really, really hard right now, but I am, and my life is worth living, and I'm going to just take the next step in front of me.
Yeah, it's like a weird, it was completely that. And I think all of the time, again, it was that self-judgment thing that I've had to really learn to control, is that this almost like a negative spin of, it's, when you're saying it's not fair, it's not, and my brain's going, how entitled do you sound? And going, actually, no, do you know what? It's actually really not fair. And acknowledging how you feel about something and trying to find a way to not judge yourself about it. It's a feeling, and that's perfectly acceptable. But for years, and what caused me one of, I suppose some of the biggest problems with resilience back in the day was that I was so judgmental of myself, not being able to cope, not being able to, not being, and it's like, hang on, or feeling, it's like, great, you feel sad. All right, get over yourself. It's like, hang on, no, why am I not allowed to feel sad? Why am I not allowed to feel upset, slightly picked on by the world? And know that it's a feeling, it will pass. It's the same when I mess up, or not even necessarily mess up. We're in a situation and we get flooded by feelings of not doing it well enough, not being great or whatever. And now I go, Nerys, it's actually okay. It's a feeling, and that's part of yourself. So let's look at what's really behind that. And can we look at whether that feeling is actually true for myself? Because lots of the time I suddenly feel useless, and it's like, hang on. If I was to look from the outside, would I say that I am useless? And
well,
again,
something I've observed, Nerys, is something that you do just beautifully, and it's a real skill you have of sort of metacognition. So rather than thinking, so that meta is when you look at it from the bigger perspective.
Okay.
So rather than having a thought, I am useless, the meta thought is thinking about the thought. So you step out and you go, hold on a minute, why am I thinking that? And then you observe it and you think about it and you go, what would somebody else say? What would I say about somebody else in the same situation? And so you check it. And what you're doing is you're catching the thought, which I think is so important. Catch the thoughts, because we can spiral. You catch them, you name them, and then you question them. Where's the truth in that? I'm so sad. Yes, you're sad because this has happened. That's okay. You can be sad because it's not fair, because of what I'm being so judgmental. Hold on a minute. Let's just give myself time to grieve it, and then let's reality check, fact check it. And you it's a real gift. It's lovely to hear the example of it. I'm curious about how easy and how smoothly does that actually run in real life compared to like explaining it here as we talk?
Do you know, it's still a skill that I think I'm always going to be trying to hone and get on top of, because I've seen the positive output that it has for me, and the fact that how often I was doing the spiraling and the negativity and the fact that now the amount of times I spiral are so much more reduced. It's then something that my brain can see the point of constantly going, hang on. And sometimes it feels really uncomfortable. And sometimes my brain goes, nope, actually not today. Nope, we're just spiraling. And again, seeing that and going, okay, hang on, I've registered. Oh, no, I can't get on top of that right now. And going, that's also okay. What else is going on right now? Okay, so I'm working 6 jobs. I've worked 55 hours this week. I've driven for another 21. Okay, so that's 76 hours that I've been working. And so I can't right now be that positive thing for myself. Okay, so what can I do? What can I do? All right, I can chuck on a song that I don't know if you've ever like worked with people with ADHD that have my type, but occasionally it's like food. My brain finds something that I find very comforting, which for most people probably would not register inside the comforting thing. And I also realize that. So there's a song that's about the house and your life burning down, which my sister found hilarious, that my brain found this one song, for some reason. It's these are the things we lost, the things we lost in the fire, fire, fire. And my sister was like, why are you listening to a song on repeat about fire? And I was like, because I lost everything in a fire and my brain can connect with it for whatever reason. And for some reason, it's managed to connect with it in a positive, light way. I don't make the rules. Okay. My brain does. And, then there's another song, I think it's called Labor, and it's a women's kind of empowerment song. And, when I got skiing and it wasn't going particularly well, I was like, right, let's get that song on repeat. And something that my brain, my ADHD loves is the comfort of something on repeat. Poached eggs on toast. Just another one. Okay. And my brain can do poached eggs on toast every single morning. Think it's probably like 3 years now. And everyone else goes, oh my God, what? You eat the same meals? And my brain's like, this makes me feel comfort. I know what calories are in it. It's very safe for me. And so when I feel that negative thought and I can't get on top of it, I now go, okay, that's all right as well. Because we're trying not to self-kill ourselves over the fact that we can't be perfect, because we're not perfect. In fact, we're useless at being perfect, and perfect sucks. Who wants to be perfect? And then my brain goes, oh, just in that like little self-rant that it had about the fact that I couldn't do something, and that I started going, oh God, my brain, no, I'm not perfect. I don't want, do you want to be perfect? You don't. No, fine. Okay, cool. So we're good with the fact that we can't right now. Stop the negative thought. What is causing it? What's causing me not to be able to do that? And then I'm like, right, this week, because the insurance left me 90 grand short, I've worked 6 jobs, 55 hours, 21 hours of driving, 76 hours. I've spent maybe 5 hours a night in bed. 2 of those have been my brain doing its little ADHD thing. Okay, cool. Do you know what? We're overtired. And that's why. And so now I've started going, do you know what? It's okay that I can't do it all of the time. And just releasing that pressure on myself, I'll suddenly then realize that 2 hours down the line, my brain's gone, oh, were you 100% at fault in that conversation that you were killing yourself about? No, actually. Okay, cool. All right. What else I factored? Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So actually we maybe meet in the middle. Now I'm only 50% killing myself over the negative thing that I was spinning on. 50%. Hang on. I've moved myself 50% forward. Cool. Okay. I'm taking 50% today. 50% is fine. And then I might ring a friend or I might write something down, because we need to be 100% to make ourselves feel okay. But I don't have to be the 100%. So I could then go and stroke Fergus. Fergus can take 40% of what I can't be. So Fergus will give me 40% of his love and hugs and his energy. And suddenly now I've got my 100%, but I don't have to be all of it. I can wheel with the dog and say good morning. They say good morning back. They smile at me. Hang on, I've just got 10% of the positive loves that I need for the day. I don't have to have 100% of my own positive loves. So, okay, then I start feeling down. Hang on, what gave me 10%? Going out for a walk and saying hi to people. So I go out, wheel. Good morning. Hi, how are you? People say, oh my God, my day's terrible. Now people are telling me something. Now I can be positive for them. I can feed back the 10% that I took from someone earlier in the day, and I can be somebody else's 10%.
Oh, Nerys, you are talking about how acts of kindness and looking out to other people. Now, I know these letters behind me bothered you.
No,
Sorry,
you're
I don't mean
fine.
to laugh.
My
But
brain's trying not to.
A is, yeah, I'm going to draw your attention to it now.
Yeah.
A is acts of kindness in our
Oh,
Care and Grow, and the importance of acts of kindness to ourselves. You've been talking about how you do that, but when we do it to others as well, that can like really feed us. It's almost impossible to be entirely altruistic. There's something, if you're kind to people, it feeds you as well. So
I mean, it's
And we talk.
why we do it. Go on,
Oh.
sorry, Georgina.
I was just going to say, we've also talked about the C there, the connection, the importance of connecting with other human beings. You were saying there in terms of, I'm recognizing where my energy is at, but it's not all my responsibility. I can share my energy and resources with others. And, going back to that man on the ski slope, his encouragement, turn things around for you. And so we're on a roll. Respect for body, enjoyment. Actually, sometimes, Nerys, when you're just like that, well, I'm just getting a few hours sleep. I've got all these things to do, and I've got to do them because I've got to earn the money.
That's what I need.
It is exhausting. Let's be absolutely. And somebody says, "Oh, let's go to the cinema or something." That would have been nice, but the only thing that's appealing is going to bed. So we've got to roll with where we're at, and look after ourselves. That's our respect for body and gratitude.
I also found something. Oh, go on. Sorry, Georgina.
No, go on.
I found something else that's like really helped me and kind of changed my world in a way, and that is that back in the day, I would be experiencing a situation, and it wouldn't be a positive one. And my brain would be like, oh my God, this is really awful. This is terrible. And, you start feeling all icky and kind of like, and then suddenly one day I did this storytelling course, and a lady said, we can show up with the energy that we need, that we want. We don't have to accept the energy that already exists. And I was like, what? Now I coach and I run workshops. So I had the most amazing place to try this out as an experiment. And so one day it was really stressful. Everything was going on. And I turned up and I could feel really stressful. And the teenagers were just being really stressful. And then I went, hang on, let's just think about I'm going to try this. And I was like, right, guys, okay, isn't this amazing? Right. And I changed the energy to be something positive, truly inside myself, to be something positive. And then I watched the entire training space change the energy to be something positive. And I was like, oh my God, maybe it's a fluke. Maybe it's a fluke. Okay, cool. All right, here we go. So the next session I turned up and I was like, nope, sit, nope, can't be bothered, nope. And I was like trying with this can't be bothered energy. And what I got back was I created the can't be bothered energy. And I was like, hang on, the power that I show up with in a room, in a space, hang on, for myself, even if I just show up and it's all starting to go, the washing up or whatever else. I smashed a glass in the dishwasher the other day. We all know how much nightmare that is. And I was like, so stupid, the drawer. And I knew the glass was there and it was like, I knew it. And then I was like, hang on. All right. So I started singing as I was picking the million bits of glass out of the dishwasher. And I suddenly realized that I made what was like feeling a really intense, crazy, it's a dishwasher, no one was going to die, into a light. And then I could feel myself singing songs randomly that had tenuous links to glass. Who knows? And suddenly I turned into this. And it was something else that I just watched then with other people, is that actually lots of the time, the energy that's inside a room that we're feeling actually can be started by us. And if we're not enjoying the energy, then do we have the capacity to change it, even slightly? And so now when I find myself getting into those stressful situations at work with people and everything else, I'm like, hang on, am I causing part of that? Can I go into this with a different mindset, with a different energy? And sometimes the answer is yes, and then you get a glorious outcome. Sometimes the answer is yes, and your outcome's that. But the times that the answer is yes, and I get a glorious outcome, I changed that one situation that was not working for me into something that was working for me, and finding that little bits of power to make your life lighter, better, or what you want. It doesn't matter what that is. It's just more of what you want, was also just a revolution for me. Is a revolution the right word? Anyway,
Well, it's a call to an experiment, Nerys, and I am going to experiment with this at bedtime, because bedtime. So my little boy wakes up about 2 or 4 in the morning. So when it comes time to getting my other children to bed, I'm looking forward to getting in my bed, and they just want to keep playing and do stuff, and I become quite grumpy, mummy, Nerys.
yeah,
So I'm going to have an experiment with changing the energy.
I think you've got this. This is the perfect one as well, because children are the easiest to you kind of get on board with. If you fully get on board with singing our bedtime, I don't know how old your children are, so you might think I'm completely insane at this point, but singing the bedtime and a complete positive energy to getting ourselves set up, and guys, shall we read another story? And just changing that energy from we need bed, right now, to lifting the pressure. And it's definitely worked for me. Definitely.
Yes.
Just
wonderful.
lifting the pressure.
The other thing from our Care and Grow model is around gratitude. And whilst we haven't used that word, I've definitely heard you express it. Our R is about reflect. And what I heard, is when you're in that really dark season, it was all about what is lost. And actually, when you shifted to, but what do I have? And what can I do, be, achieve? Things massively changed. And optimize achievement, my goodness, Nerys. We are in the presence of an extraordinary lady.
Doesn't always go well. But you know what? That's cool too.
And and crack on.
That's
to hammer.
And that's reflect. The other thing that I wanted to pick up on that you said, and I often say this, you cannot succeed unless you are prepared to fail, because that is the ingredients that keeps you going. Ruth and I, we have to embrace that. But so
failing.
And when we first met, you said, "Oh, you two are a bit polished." We went, "No, nobody had ever said that to us before, Nerys."
Wow. This is your podcast. You've just both had you're very put together. Oh, and it's crazy, isn't it? Right? Because that's part of the problem, is that, I've got people that come and go, oh my God, Nerys, how on earth do you hold this all together all the time? You're working 6 jobs, you're rebuilding the bungalow, you're doing your sports, you've lost 20 kilo, you've got you like walking the dog, you're taking him to all his appointments. And I'm like, oh my God, literally, I feel like rabid squirrels have stolen all the acorns in a hurricane and now desperately need to account for them all. And I'm so, oh no, literally, I spend my entire life looking round for the adult to try and take some of the adulting off me, because I feel like I never quite nail it. And actually, it's just everyone, isn't it?
Absolutely. It is everyone. And do you know, when you were talking about the council tax, I think that's a very ADHD thing. The number of people with ADHD and paperwork, it's just so overwhelming. So we hear like,
how many days have I got left? I'll leave it until I've got like 12 hours, because then my brain gives itself the chemicals, because now it's a panic. Now
Deadline
it's
junkie. Deadline junkie, Nerys.
I know. But I used to, again, be like, oh yeah, but you're rubbish because of that. You're never going to. And I'm like, oh no. Do you know how many tasks I can get through if there is an urgent, whack them up, like seriously, and then watch me go. But again, trying to change that and looking at society and everyone that seemingly has it all put together and seemingly has, okay, they've got their tax return put together, but their squirrels will be loose somewhere else. And that's also fine. They might be.
They walk into their house being burned down and go, wow, look at the beauty of the art.
I'll have to send you some of the photographs, because it is
I'd love to see that.
I really took these photographs because my brain just caught. And originally I felt so bad about it. So I'm just like, no, it's like you lost everything. Focus almost died in here. I'm like, oh, isn't that pretty? And I was like there is something actually loose in your brain right now. And then I was like, do you know what? It's my house and it's my fire. And if I want to find something that's beautiful about it, I'm going to be okay about that. But my brain still did the judgment thing. What will other people think? And then I showed other people, and they were like, wow, that really is artistic. And I was like, I know, the fire did it. And they're like, what? It's not actually an art piece. I'm like, no, that's the picture of the inside of my lounge. And they're like, what? And then I was like, oh, so other people can find the beauty in it too. Maybe not if I'd explained the circumstances first. And knowing that it was okay to be slightly off the wall, but I found something that allowed me to start moving forwards. And
yes,
why
wisdom.
Can't that be okay?
And so I think what I've really heard you do today is take a reflective space on some of the most challenging things that life can throw at us, and dig into your skills, dig into your relationships, dig into your opportunities. I don't know what more we can do to embrace life. I think you are a wonderful example of a human being demonstrating resilience in every different area of your life. And I'm really pleased that you shared all the different ways in which, you know, as probably the most resilient person on the planet, Nerys, that you can still experience those mental attacks, if you like, and how you still every day have to be vigilant to them. And you were lovely, because so at the start here, my picture fell down, and I'm so glad that it stayed up. But you were like, you know, come on, it's not a big idea, but you know, I could feel myself spiraling. Then we're not gonna be able to do this podcast because now I've got a big hole in my wall, and I'm gonna have to do it with that, and that's just terrible. Anyway, it stayed up. It's wonky. So what? It stayed up.
Nerys Pearce, thank you so much. It has been wonderful to interview you. You are an absolute inspiration. Record-breaking ski champion and catalyst for joy. Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And hopefully we'll get to work with each other again.